For the past 7 weeks, two of the world's major powers have been locked in a really dangerous conflict. And right now, as the world holds its breath, there's a desperate, high-stakes race against the clock to pull them back from the brink. We're going to take you inside this incredibly fragile peace process to look at the one nation that, believe it or not, is right at the center of it all.
And really, it all boils down to this one question. Is it even possible for a single country to step between two giants and stop a war? Honestly, that's what we're here to figure out. The world is watching to see if one mediator can actually keep a devastating conflict from flaring up all over again. And this is the date that has diplomats everywhere completely on edge. April 22nd. It's not just another day on the calendar, it is a hard deadline. This is the day a very shaky 2-week ceasefire between the United States and Iran is set to expire. The clock is absolutely ticking.
So, how in the world do you stop a clock like that? Well, it takes a frantic, last-ditch diplomatic effort. And that's exactly what's happening right now, unfolding at lightning speed across the entire region. This whole effort actually has a name. They're calling it the Islamabad process. And its goal is pretty simple but incredibly ambitious: turn a temporary pause in a nearly 2-month-long war into a lasting peace. But with that April 22nd deadline just looming, it is a true high-wire act, and there is absolutely no safety net. To really get how urgent this is, we need to back up a little. I mean, how did we even get here? To a point where these two nations are once again on the brink of an all-out war. Let's just quickly walk through the timeline. Just look at how tight this whole thing is. The war itself has been going on for 7 weeks. It was only on April 8th that Pakistan somehow managed to get this fragile 2-week ceasefire in place. And get this, talks started just 4 days later. So now everything is just hurtling towards that April 22nd deadline when this whole fragile peace could just shatter into a million pieces. So, how those first talks go? Well, this official statement from Pakistan's foreign ministry pretty much says it all. There was neither a breakthrough nor a breakdown. I mean, that one sentence just perfectly captures the tension, doesn't it? The good news is, hey, they're talking. The bad news? They are completely, totally deadlocked. And standing right in the middle of this incredibly dangerous stalemate is one country, Pakistan. So let's take a closer look at how it managed to become the only nation that both sides trust to mediate this crisis. What's really interesting is that Pakistan is using this clever two-pronged strategy. On one track, the civilian side, you've got Prime Minister Sharif, who's been touring the region, trying to rally support and build a coalition for peace. At the very same time, on the military track, you have CDF Munir in Tehran doing the really tough, direct, face-to-face negotiations to try and bridge that massive gap between the US and Iran. And this quote right here from Iran's ambassador, it just reveals how critical Pakistan's role really is. We will do talks in Pakistan and nowhere else because we trust Pakistan. Just think about that for a second. For Iran, there is no other option. That level of trust is the absolute bedrock of this entire peace process. Without it, these talks simply would not be happening, period. But, trust alone can't solve everything. Even with Pakistan's best efforts, the negotiators are slamming up against 3 massive, incredibly complicated roadblocks. And frankly, any one of them could derail this whole process. Okay, so here they are, the 3 major hurdles. First, you've got the ongoing crisis in Lebanon, which Iran is demanding has to be part of any deal. Second, there's the incredibly dangerous naval standoff happening in the Strait of Hormuz. And finally, the issue that's really at the heart of everything, Iran's nuclear program. Let's break each of these down. All right, hurdle number 1, Lebanon. Iran is insistent that the conflict there, where Israeli strikes have created a huge humanitarian crisis, has to be included in any big-picture deal. The U.S. position is just as firm. No way. Lebanon has to be a separate negotiation. This isn't some small disagreement, you guys. This is a fundamental clash over how a peace treaty would even be structured. Now, the second roadblock can be summed up with this single number: 1/5. In normal times, that's how much of the entire world's oil supply passes through a tiny little waterway called the Strait of Hormuz. So when it's closed, it doesn't just hurt the region, it has huge, massive, consequences for the entire global economy. And right now, it is a crisis on top of a crisis. Iran has basically blocked the strait, and the US has responded with its own naval blockade. So what you've got is an incredibly dangerous game of chicken between 2 powerful navies in one of the most important economic choke points on the entire planet. And that brings us to the final hurdle, The one that many analysts say is, quote, at the heart of the real problem, Iran's nuclear program. This is the deepest, most complex issue of all, and it's really the original source of the tension that's been building and building for years. So, with these enormous obstacles and a ticking clock, we have to ask the big question. Is this truce actually going to hold? The signals we're getting from both sides are, well, they're deeply confusing, giving us reasons for both hope and, frankly, despair. Let's try to make sense of this. On the hope side of the ledger, the White House says it feels good about a deal. President Trump hinted talks could start up again any day. One expert even said he'd be really surprised if the ceasefire isn't extended. Okay, good. But the reasons for caution are just as strong. Those 3 massive roadblocks we just talked about, they haven't magically disappeared. And there's a real fear that if these talks fail, Pakistan's role could flip from mediator to crisis manager. And all the while, that clock just keeps ticking down to April 22nd.
And so that brings us right back to our central question. This Islamabad process is really a powerful testament to diplomacy against some pretty overwhelming odds. But with so many critical issues still up in the air, the line between success and failure is razor thin, which leaves all of us wondering, will the peacemaker pull it off, or is Pakistan about to find itself trying to manage an even bigger crisis?